Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
How are you, Daniel? You okay?
I'm very good, thanks. This is obviously a late night edition of the Hotline Live. Not as late as we've been sometimes, but obviously we're reacting to Celtic's Champions League exit, it turns out, against Kairat Almaty. I don't even know where to start, Swanee, with that. I really don't. I mean, just crazy that we're even having to talk about this from Celtic's perspective.
Well, here's the place to start. No one's really shocked.
Aye, that's fair.
That doesn't sum up the situation that Celtic got themselves into ahead of these qualifiers. Nothing does.
Aye.
Because, I mean, we sat in that Hotline Live studio with Chris Sutton. We were doing the Record Celtic podcast when the day the draw came out.
Aye.
And I don't think Celtic had a hand-picked a better draw. And even then, they hadn't done the business that they should have done in the transfer window. But they were given what you would class as a favourable tie. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Kairat Almaty, but they were average at best. They worked hard and they were a very modest team. I've
got to be honest, Swanee, right? And this might come back to haunt me. I think they will lose every game in the Champions League.
Oh, listen, absolutely. And I've been to enough Celtic Champions League qualifiers to see some of the teams that they've played. You know, you go right back to the start to Croatia Zagreb, through Malmo's, you know, through teams that they've played against that have been good teams and have knocked them out. And it's been difficult for Celtic, but you know, they were playing sides that you should say, okay, they maybe shouldn't have lost to them, but there were 50, 60, 40 games. Celtic should have been winning that all day long. And as you say, where do you start? I mean, the words ambition have been used by the manager. The word that springs to mind for me is conviction. All the way through. No conviction from the top in terms of getting the bodies in. No conviction in the two performances. Even in the penalty shootout, no conviction in the penalties that we've been taking, really. I mean, just a dreadful night for Celtic.
We're going to. We've got plenty of comments coming in right now on tonight's result. If you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so, and we'll read through them. A few already controversial ones here, Swanee, that I'll get your take on. Mark says, time for Rodgers to go. His pedestrian tactics are woeful. His decision not to start with our penalty taker awful, but starting with Ida is unforgivable. I think he means in the shootout, starting with Ida. This one as well comes from William Sloan, who says, now it's not Lawwell or Nicholson's fault for being unable to score 3 from 5 penalties. But Davey says, this is on the board, period. How do you see that, Swan? I mean, that's going to be the talk now over the next few days, certainly.
Well, another word that Brendan Rodgers has used is a collective, and it is a collective. Everybody's got to take their share on this. You know, Brendan Rodgers made it clear he needed players. Players weren't brought to the club in time for the qualifiers, or not enough players in the right positions were brought to the club for the qualifiers in time. So that's his. Brendan Rodgers will take it upon himself. He said before the game at the press conference in Almaty, no excuses. He's the man responsible for putting the team out, setting the team up. They couldn't score in 2 games against Kairat. Now, again, that comes back to, you can argue probably quite rightly, that comes back to the board. If you lose your number 1 striker in January and he's still not replaced, and you lose your number 1 wide attacking threat when your other one's injured, you don't lose him. You choose to sell him at the time when he went, and you don't replace him, and then you don't score a goal in either of the 2 legs plus extra time. Well, that tells its own story, doesn't it?
They've taken a £40 million gamble, and it's not paid off. And I just, like, I'm talking off air, and our producer Paul was saying to us that Celtic fans will be furious, and I think a lot of them will just be bewildered. Like, why has this happened? The money's there. It's not like it's Mike Nicholson's money or Peter Lawwell's money. The money's there. There's players out there. I don't understand it. I really don't understand why it's came to this.
No, and listen, if you're looking for an answer off me, I'm the same as everybody else. I can't work out either. I know how the transfer window works. We all know how the transfer window works. Deals can be difficult to get done. We know all of that. But Celtic had enough time to get deals done. There's no doubt about that. They must have been able to get players in. Yeah. Must have been. And for whatever reason, it's been held up. And I'm sure there'll be individual ones. Clubs are hanging on, selling clubs and trying to get more money and that kind of thing. But then there's an announcement. There's going to be an announcement of 2 players tomorrow. That looks like they kind of been done today. Why are they not done 2 weeks ago?
I know.
These boys would have made a difference, but it almost looked like the squad just looked in these 2 games like it's just been crying out for an injection of a bit of freshness.
Yeah.
More than anything else. Rather than, I'm not just saying putting players in for the sake of putting players in, but it just looked as though they needed a bit of help. And it was just a staleness about the two performances. Pedestrian, lethargic, and pretty stale. There was a flurry in extra time when the realisation that the sceptre of penalties was looming, and suddenly Celtic managed to get. And to be fair, Kairat or Maeda had clearly set their sights on penalties and dropped deeper and deeper into the game, which enabled Celtic to get further up the pitch. But there was another to say about Celtic later in the game. Where was it from the start of the first leg? Where was it from the start of the second leg? So that one's on the manager and the players.
Yeah. What about
I know the criticisms of the board, but that Celtic squad is still good enough to be dealing with Kairat or Maeda.
Yeah,
surely.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Stephen in the comments says Celtic, as a fan base, needed this. The Celtic board have got away with it 3 years running due to automatic qualification. Is that a point, Swanee, that maybe this will spark a rethink in Celtic's recruitment? I mean, I don't think it will, but
because it hasn't. It's never sparked it before.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't. I mean,
you're right.
Celtic have spent money. No one's arguing with that. Celtic have paid out big money and they've signed players, but it's always been the issue. Has always been the timing. It's always, even last year it was late in the window, but they didn't have the qualifier to worry about. You just thought on this occasion, okay, especially when Nicholas Kuhn left. That's the big one for me. When Nicholas Kuhn left, I think we spoke to Brendan. I think it might have been July the 4th, if I've got that right, was the day that it all came out. Because I've got that date in my head because I was at Hampden for Queen's Park Celtic. I'm sure it was July the 4th. And that was the day when it was more or less confirmed he was going. It was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But you thought when he went, well, Celtic must have a winger lined up here. They must have. Because you're not allowing Nicholas Kuhn to leave unless there's somebody lined up. He might not have been coming in the next day, but you're pretty confident he's going to be coming in for the qualifiers, especially when you know that Jota is going to be sidelined. It defies logic to me.
Yeah. I mean, George in the comment says the board think it's their money. We hear this crap season after season. It's now time for Celtic fans to stop giving them money, stop buying merchandise and anything else they don't need to buy. Starve them of money. I really hope they don't sell out. The Europa League is going to hit them hard. Sorry, you get lost a bit there, George, but I think the point is well taken. Look, they're into the Europa League now, Celtic, and with my glass half full, Swanee, it's a competition that Rangers went deep in. Surely Celtic can as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when the dust settles on this, it's, the Europa League for Celtic is a competition they can do something in. And if you looked at Rangers Champions League games, Rangers Europa League games last season, they were every bit as glamorous, some of them as Celtic's Europa League, Champions League ties. Rangers were playing Tottenham and Manchester United when Celtic were playing Slovan, Bratislava and Young Boys. So, in a couple of the games. So, there is a bit of glamour there. That's fine. And from a player's point of view, they're still going to get to play at a decent level and it's a competition that they might do well in. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
That wasn't the bar. That's not the bar that was set. The bar was set by the club. Celtic continually say they're a Champions League club. Well, they didn't go about staying in the Champions League the right way, and now they're not in it.
Aye. Well, William Sloan in the comments says, you're correct, Swanee. Two different stories. Hammer the board for lack of ambition, but the manager had more than enough at his disposal to win. And he didn't. John says, go back further, Swanee. Celtic knew Kyogo wanted to leave before this time last season. And he's still not been replaced.
That's staggering to me. That's absolutely staggering. I don't know what the disconnect is or what the issue is. I don't know if the manager wants a certain player and it's maybe out with the bounds of what the club want to go to. I don't know. But there surely has to have been strike. I mean, as far as we know, but we're still not... There's how many days to the window closes? Still no striker in. It's like that is unfathomable to me. When we sat at Villa Park, because I think Kyogo left after the Young Boys game.
He did. Yeah.
Straight after that, and the following week at Villa Park, when Brendan Rodgers confirmed that Kieran Tierney's pre-contract was done, he said he wanted a striker and needed a new striker in, and that was for that window. We're less than a week to go in the next window. There still isn't one in the door.
Mm-hmm.
None of it makes sense. I do apologise if anybody's come on to this hoping for answers, because I don't have any. I'm the same as everybody else.
I know.
I just cannot work the majority of this stuff out. And I keep coming back to it. I know deals are difficult to do, and I know if there's a specific one that you want, you might have to wait for them. But as you say, when Kyogo was going, when the inkling was there this time last year, that Kyogo was going to be leaving, come on.
Yeah.
Surely.
Nicholas in the comments, I think he's talking about me, says, what is this guy on? Can't score against Kairat for 200 minutes, yet they're going to do well in the Europa. What makes you think that? I purely say that in the sense that, you know, Celtic have at times hammered Rangers in the Premiership, and Rangers got to the final in 22. What was it, the quarterfinals last season? You know, on that basis, I would think Celtic, if they dust themselves down and pick themselves up.
But you also think,
could
Daniel,
do something.
and this is the bizarre thing about it, that I do believe, on top of the two that Celtic have got, they probably will end up getting another. They probably will end up getting a striker.
Yeah.
Because it can't continue the way it is just now. Quite clearly, you know, that was another knock to Adam Ida's confidence again tonight. He doesn't start the game, then he misses a penalty. I mean,
he looks destroyed, Swanee.
Yeah, that's felt sorry for him, to be perfectly honest with you. There was very little confidence, I would imagine, in a lot of people watching that he was going to score.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm kind of thinking that they might be on the Europa League is I believe there probably will be, from that squad that took part tonight, there'll probably be another four new players in it. 2 from today and maybe another 2 before the window shuts. Point is, too late for the Champions League, which Celtic continue to tell us they're a Champions League club and that is the aspiration. Well,
doesn't it feel like it, does it?
Well, it doesn't.
Well,
perfectly honest, the way it's gone this summer, it doesn't. No.
I actually, Swanee, caught up with the guys for Record Sport that are over for the Bruges Rangers game, and we'll catch up with them a little bit later on. But a couple of things just to tie up on Celtic. Obviously, massive game now for Celtic on Sunday. Do you think tonight's, and sort of the dramatic nature of tonight's result, will affect Celtic? And obviously they've got that 15-hour flight or whatever it is home. I mean, it's coming at all the wrong times going to Ibrox, surely.
Well, Celtic are going to have to listen. There's going to be a lot of angst around Celtic, around the supporters in the next few days, and I can understand a lot of it, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, victories over Rangers do tend to soothe a lot of the wounds, but I think we spoke quite a few times. I think Chris Sutton made the point last season, and it was a very good point, that Rangers had fallen off a cliff, and the fans were almost not. Celtic fans didn't really want to measure Celtic against Rangers, if you know what I mean. The barometer was almost, can this team progress in the Champions League? Now, you look at the way Rangers have started this season already, the Celtic fans are looking at Rangers thinking, an absolute mess. So, you know, beating Rangers will always be a joyous occasion for Celtic fans, but after what's happened tonight, I mean, yes, they'll enjoy it and they'll love it and it'll be great, but there will still be a bit of, you know, I don't think it'll be as jubilant as what it would be normally, because that's a real sore one tonight. That's a real sore one, and what makes it worse is an avoidable one. Yeah,
we had a guy on, and I apologise if you're watching, I can't remember your name. It was a couple of weeks ago on Hotline Live, and he insisted multiple times in the comments that if Celtic go out to Kairat Almaty, it's the worst result this century. And I threw back at him at Maeda Bratislava. He said, no, this is worse, because that was, you know, Strachan had time to rebuild. He was just in the door. This would be a worse result. I can't, to be honest with you, I can't really think of any worse result. I mean, Lincoln Red Imps on a one-off night, obviously.
They Celtic got through that tie.
They got through that tie.
I mean, this is a Champions League playoff. And listen, I actually feel a little bit guilty for the way I spoke earlier about Kairat Almaty, because if you look at the results of Scottish clubs in Europe, and Rangers have done brilliantly, you have to say, in a couple of Europa League campaigns, and Celtic obviously did well in last year's Champions League. But on the whole, some of the results for Scottish clubs in Europe have been terrible in recent times. So we shouldn't be standing and looking down our noses at anyone. So I feel a bit bad about the way, maybe about speaking in Kairat Almaty in those terms. They knocked Slovan Bratislava out in the last round. So, you know, we were making comparisons with Slovan Bratislava when the draw came out. That, you know, Celtic had beat them last season at Celtic Park, and you were looking at the level of Slovan Bratislava. they weren't that bad, Slovan, but they weren't great, but they weren't appalling. You know, Celtic played really well that night and thrashed them, and I know they struggled through it, but I mean, it was Champions League level. I don't think they were absolutely dreadful, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure Kairat or Maeda, as bang average as they were, I don't think they were utter cannon fodder. Celtic should have been putting them out, but you know, they had a bit of organisation about them and a bit of willingness, and they were fine. But they should.
It had to be.
They should. They were. Yeah, they were hard to beat. They were stubborn. They were gritty. They dug in, and they didn't let Celtic play. But it doesn't excuse Celtic going out. Nothing from. And like I said earlier, it's a collective. The board have to take their share. The manager and the players have to take their share too. Because
in the comments, John again says the Celtic team isn't a Champions League level team due to not replacing key players. Europa is our level this season. We'll win the league again, though.
The thing is, Daniel, that comment is based on from John, and he's right when he's talking about the team as it is tonight.
Yeah,
because the team with Kyogo and Kuna in it was good enough to play in the Champions League, and if they were adequately replaced, they could still be of a Champions League level with Jota back as well.
Another one
tonight.
Another name that I would throw at you, Swanee. He's not actually. We've not mentioned him once. I haven't seen his name mentioned in the comments either. The one that's starting to really kind of worry me from a Celtic point of view is Dyson Maeda. He doesn't look the same to me. I don't know if there's stuff going on in the background, but for him to miss that chance the way he did tonight, then miss his penalty, he just does not look like the same force that he was or has been for Celtic in the last couple of seasons.
But Dyson Maeda's entitled to get a bit of help.
Aye.
I mean, we spoke on Hotline Live last night, desperately trying to find the shoehorn way in to get Dyson Maeda to score a goal, and he's got to go in, he's got to get through the middle, and that's got to change, and that's got to change. And you know, you could even see that. Clearly, you could see that Brendan Rodgers shared that feeling of he's my guy, he's going to have to be my guy, or else, with the greatest of respect to the lad, Yang wouldn't be starting, because Brendan Rodgers has said several weeks ago Yang could have gone on loan, and he's only here because there's no, the replacements haven't been brought in. Starting a Champions League playoff in order to be able to get Maeda through the middle.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, I think when there's a reliance on one player constantly, it's eventually going to wear them down a wee bit. And he had a brilliant season last season, and he's not started this season the way he should have. Not the way he should have. That's a bit unfair. Just the way you're kind of expecting. You just expect him to pick it straight up. It hasn't happened, but he's entitled to look around and think somebody else do my turn. Surely.
I know. I agree.
I mean, listen, Henrik Larsson's probably one of the greatest strikers Celtic ever had, but he'll be the first one to tell you that he'd Sutton and Hartson and the other boys who helped take a bit off him to allow him. Dyson Maeda's been basically doing it on his own, and basically has been doing it on his own since January.
Aye. William in the comments says he missed a big chance in the first leg as well. Although Marzuno says it's only a dip in form, will be back. David Gillespie says he's had his head turned, but who knows? The last thing.
Listen, I don't know Daniel either, but if I'm Dyson Maeda, I want to play in the Champions League, and I think I proved last year I'm good enough to play in the Champions League, and I wanted to play in the Champions League with Celtic. Yeah, and now I can't.
Absolutely.
And I think you mentioned it last night, Danny. You maybe looking about going, where's the reinforcements? I thought we were going to kick on. My mate left in January. Why is it me?
What do you think then, Swanee, finally on Celtic? What will this mean to Brendan Rodgers' future? Because do you think this will have a big impact on whether or not he stays or leaves Celtic at the end of the season?
I think Brendan Rodgers has been pretty consistent with the fact that he said he'll do his 3 years, and any talk beyond that has to go on hold. And I repeat it, I know I sound like a bore. Nobody knows what Brendan Rodgers thinks, and he's told us that himself. But you would have to think in terms of staying beyond this season, what's happened this summer, and then going out the Champions League might have a big influence on that. I would think. Because Brendan Rodgers wants to be operating at the top level. Yeah. He stood on the trackside at Tannadice and told everybody how desperate he was when Celtic won the league last year to get back into that Champions League and progress what had happened the year before. And now he's not even in it. So And again, and I'm sure he will accept as well. He was the one who said last night, no excuses from anyone if the team doesn't get through. So he'll take his share of the blame as well.
Yeah.
Because that team just did not perform in 2 games. They just did not turn up for whatever reason. I do not know, because it's not like those players don't know what was on the line. Because the majority of them really enjoyed the experience that they went through last year. They loved it. So they knew what they were playing for. But
John says
there's just no freshness in there. There's no freshness. That's the problem.
John says Brendan is going to leave at the end of the season. That's one of the reasons why the board haven't fully backed him. Davey says, I'll be stunned if he stays after this season. Do you think there might be something in that, Swanee? Sorry, Marzuno as well says he's been lied to. He's gone. Do you think there's something in John's point, Swanee, about maybe the reason why Celtic board haven't invested, at all almost?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. I would surprise. The one thing I would say on that point is that absolutely should not be the case, because at a major club, it's supposed to work that these things are done a year and a half in advance. You should know who your targets are going to be. It should be getting identified like that. So that shouldn't have an influence. So I mean, right now Celtic should be looking at January's transfer window and next year's transfer window when they're already identifying the guys that have got 2 years left in their contract now. Who's going to have 1 year left? This should all be way ahead of the game. So listen, I don't know. Maybe the caller has a point. Maybe I don't know. I can't answer that.
No, who knows?
Only the Celtic hierarchy can answer that. But all I would say is it would surprise me if that was the case. But the other thing is it definitely shouldn't be the case, because the club should be ahead of the game. But we said this last summer, and you said it in January. And if you'd have said to me in January, well, I'm not going to replace Kyogo, you'd have been quite surprised. But you're thinking, well, okay, that probably means the one they really want are going to be able to get in the summer and get embedded in for the Champions League qualifiers.
Yeah.
Nope.
Gianni, our pal, says, picture the scene if Rangers win tomorrow. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot about Celtic, Swanee, but we have to touch on the Rangers game tomorrow. I actually caught up with Scott McDermott and Andy Newport, who are there for Record Sport in Bruges. Shall we hear about what they had to say following today's press conference?
Let's.
I'm joined all the way from in Bruges by Colin Farrell and it's Andy Newport and Scott McDermott. Guys, how's it going?
I'm definitely Colin Farrell in that partnership.
I was going to say that, mate. That goes without saying.
You seen the film? He's the one that. We'll not get into that. But
how's it going, guys?
Very well, yeah. It's a beautiful place. Got here last night. As per usual, bit of our usual travel chaos getting here, but we're safe and sound here, so ready to go.
It's a stunning place, absolutely beautiful. First time here, and we've not seen much of it yet. Hopefully we'll get to see a wee bit more tomorrow, but it's beautiful.
Nice one. You've obviously, as I talk to you now, you've just heard from Bruges boss Nicky Hayne. I imagine he was in pretty confident mood going into this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his team have got a really healthy lead from last week's first leg, and he's backing his team to go and finish off the job. Got to say, he was in pretty good form. He seems like a smart coach. Had a lot of warm things to say about Russell Martin. Gave him his backing. Believes he can get things right at Rangers, but only after tomorrow night. Once his team go and carry on with the left off at Ibrox, he's kind of hoping that the kind of doubts that Rangers have got, especially heading into this whole third game, might play a part and muddle their thinking, really. So
he did give Russell Martin his backing, Daniel, but I found it quite interesting though. He also said, of course, every coach kind of needs time, but ultimately you need to get results. I think that's the case for Russell Martin. I thought another interesting thing he said when talking about that was he mentioned the culture of Rangers. He said something, it's okay having a philosophy and a way of playing, but it has to fit into the culture of the club. I don't know if that was even a wee hint from him that he knows the demands of Rangers and Celtic. He's managed the UK before he obviously that spell in Wales where he got to know Russell Martin. But it was as if he was saying it's okay to have a style and a philosophy, but at a club like Rangers you need to win games, so you can't be scared to change that. And I thought that was interesting because that ultimately is the kind of dilemma for Russell Martin at the minute. He wants to stick to his principles, which is admirable, but he has to start getting results and quick.
See, that's the thing as well, guys, is that even the most ardent Rangers fan would probably think, look, Club Brugge, very good team, European pedigree, it's going to be a tough one to get through. But now we're in the stage where Russell Martin just needs a result from anywhere, doesn't he? Particularly with Celtic at the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think many people are expecting Rangers to be able to turn this tie around now, just given the way that the first leg went. But this is a game where they have to salvage some kind of pride and really look for some kind of spark that they can take into the Old game, because really at the moment confidence is rock bottom. You can see it across the whole performance of the team, but you can see it in individuals as well, that the guys are really sort of self-belief is sagging. So this needs to be a game where they can try and get just some semblance of confidence and belief that they can go into that Old Firm game and really put up a fight, because right now, as I say, things are just going so wrong so quick that I don't think anybody's expecting them to be anything other than a defeat next Sunday.
I think you're right, Andy. I think they need to show something tomorrow night. They need to give fans something to cling on to before Sunday, to give them a bit of optimism, a bit of positivity. After what's obviously been a disappointing start to the season, certainly domestically. I don't think anybody expects Rangers to get through this tie, Daniel, but they need to show a bit of fight. They need to be competitive in the game. They need to give Brugge a fright at the very least. I think that's what Rangers fans would expect. I think we accept that Brugge are in a better place than Rangers and are a better side, but there's no way Rangers shouldn't be able to compete with them over 180 minutes, so whether it's a new team or not. So I think that's what the punters that will be here, I think that's what they'll be looking for tomorrow night.
They certainly need to defend better than they did last week. The defending last week was shambolic. I think if they can tighten up, just put a competent display of defending, then they've got a chance of getting something for the game. Whether that's enough to overturn the first leg deficit, I'm not so sure. I think you might. He'll be tempted to maybe go with a back three tomorrow night, which would be a big shift and maybe a wee bit unusual. But Nicky Hines spoke about that at the press conference today, how the Rangers almost kind of went to a three at Ibrox in the second half when they were obviously pushing and got the goal. They could have got a second through Gassama. And then we seen at the weekend at St Mirren, when they were down at half time, Russell Martin rang the changes and went to a three. So listen, this is a game he's got to go and attack. So I wouldn't be surprised if he shapes up like that tomorrow night.
And we've had stories, guys, on Record Sport Online today about Hamza Igamane. I think we can safely say we've seen the last of him in a Rangers jersey, probably.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke in the Rangers podcast yesterday, Scott and I, just how ridiculous it is, how disgraceful it is for Hamza Igamane to be acting like he is, to refuse to play for a club that have given him his big opportunity, plucked him from nowhere really, to give him his chance in European football, play in the Europa League, play big derby matches, for him to return that favour by you're refusing to play when his manager needed him most. It's just bang out of order. So listen, I think it's now best for all parties if Rangers can get shot at him, basically. So if they can move him on to Lille, make a healthy profit for the subs they paid last summer to bring him in, then great. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of people at Ibrox that'll just have a sort of sour taste in their mouth at the way that this is ended.
Guys, before I let you go, predictions. How do you think it will go? Will Rangers be able to start any kind of fight back against Brugge?
I've just said they need to put up a fight, and they do, but I've kind of predicted the paper tomorrow, and I think Brugge will probably win 2-0. In the game, I think they'll get the job done. They're a kind of strong, established kind of European club at this level. I think they'll win the game, but Rangers have to show something. They have to put up a fight, give them a fright, but obviously they're struggling for chances and goals at the minute, so it's going to be tough.
I went for 2-1 in the paper tomorrow, 2-1 to Brugge. Again, I think you'll see Rangers come out with acting like they've got nothing to lose, which they don't obviously, but I just think, as Scott says, Brugge are a class above this Rangers team right now, and I just don't think there's much evidence, if any, to suggest that Rangers are capable of getting a result right now, just on current form. So they might get a spark, this might be the turning point, but that's a big if right now.
Guys, as always, it's an absolute pleasure. He's heading up the Belter now. What's the plans?
No, I've heard it's quite narrow up these stairs. I'm claustrophobic at the best of times, so no, I think we'll get out of this.
Nice one, well, guys. I hope it's a wonderful trip and safe travel up the road when the time comes.
Cheers, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
And Swanee, since I spoke to the guys, Russell Martin has been speaking about Hamza Igamane with his move to Lille, apparently all but secured now for 10.4 million. Let's hear what he had to say.
Hi Russell, how's the squad looking ahead of tomorrow? And obviously we know Hamza hasn't travelled. Can you give an update on that situation as well?
Yes, I expect. I think we'll expect that to come to a close very soon, and he won't be our player anymore. So that'll be that, and everyone else is pretty much here. So looking forward to a big game tomorrow.
How disappointing and disruptive has that situation been since the weekend?
Not really. I haven't seen him. So we had a scan yesterday, got assessed, and then obviously stuff's happening today, so he wasn't in. So it hasn't been disruptive moving forward at all.
See as a player and a former captain, if that had happened when you were playing, how would you have dealt with it as a teammate?
I don't know. I don't recall too many instances happen. I think I always just said to the players, just be honest with yourself and with us as teammates, and I'd much rather that happen before the game than during it. It's happened, we moved forward, we dealt with it, he's got what he wanted. Well, he looks likely to get what he wanted to play somewhere else, and it means we've got a sum of money that we wanted for him. So ideally it wouldn't have happened, but it did, and now we move forward and we can move on.
In terms of, there's obviously things going on in-house, also with the player returning late from pre-season, you've obviously maybe tried to shield them from that. How disappointing on a personal level was that for a professional player to not just for you but for his teammates as well?
No, I just think one day when we've won a lot of games and won something here at the club, maybe we can sit down and be really honest about the first couple of months and what you have to deal with. But it's really difficult. It was the same in Southampton. So many players thought their future would lie elsewhere. Towards the end of the window we had a really bad run of form because so many players were being told by their agents, by other clubs, that they'll get it done next week, next 2 weeks, next few days, wait till the end of the window, we'll get a favourable deal. And then we ended up with probably 15 players who thought they were still going to be leaving the club up until probably a week before, and then 4 or 5 who thought they were going to leave on transfer deadline day. So that team then went on to be 25 games unbeaten because once the window shut, they realised, okay, now we're here, we can settle down, we can actually get to work. So it's not surprising, it's not a player's fault. It's really not. It's really difficult for a young man that doesn't speak the language, that's being told, don't worry, your future's going to be elsewhere, and then I'm asking him to be all in and do this, and this is what we need from you and all that stuff. So difficult. So I don't take it personally. Hamza, the group's been amazing in terms of their willingness. It's certainly not a lack of effort. And it's not a reason we didn't win on Sunday. It's frustrating, but it's part and parcel of the transfer window. But the rest of the guys that we have here have been fantastic. Maybe 1 or 2 of them will not be here by the end of next week, but whilst they are here, they're giving us everything they've got. And I think that's all I can ask is whilst you're here, give everything you've got.
And just a kind of final question on that, just for clarity, as far as you're concerned, the scans showed that there was no injury issue.
I expect him to pass his medical. Yeah.
Swanee, GM in the comments says 10.5 million, great business for Rangers, £8 million profit. On one hand, that's spot on. I mean, a guy that's been there a year, and if you remember, started last season on the bench for months. But I think most Rangers fans will agree, good riddance, if that was his attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we said on Hotline Live I can't remember if it was Sunday night or last night. Russell Martin had to be strong on this one.
Yeah.
And he clearly was. He called it out on the day. The player has ultimately got what he wanted. And I think we joked about it last night about it was maybe Rangers that sparked those talks with Leo, but it wouldn't surprise me. Right, okay, can we get to this figure? Because this needs to happen. And it's going to happen. It's happened quickly. So, listen, it's best for all parties. I think we said that at the time. As soon as this story came out on Sunday, I think we said he should have been at the airport, dropped off on the way back from Paisley, and that seems to have been what's happened. So, Russell Martin can move on. And listen, I thought it was if I picked that up right through the audio there, I think he said something about maybe one day when we win a load of games and one I can talk about what this first couple of months have been like. If I picked that up right, that's
Aye, I think
right.
you did.
Did I catch that right? I mean,
I
that's
think you did.
yes. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that tells you all you need to know about what's been going on.
Absolutely. Right, I think with that as well, Swanee, that brings us to the end of Tuesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all the comments again. Massively appreciate them. Some of them made me laugh tonight as well. We'll be back to do it all again. It's another late night edition tomorrow night, Swanee, after the Rangers game. I almost said 11. 10 p.m. we'll be online. Have you got your Horlicks sorted, your pyjamas ready?
Oh, it's just brilliant. You pay me double time, so thanks.
I'll get back to you about that. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for all the comments again. Thanks for watching at home. Swanee, I'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers, Daniel. All the best.
And thanks for watching. Cheers.